Thank you, General Fenton. And we will start now with the Senator's questions. I'll start with 5 minutes of questions and go on to the ranking member. If we have other members join, we will have them ask questions as well. If we don't have other members join, we will recess briefly and move to the closed hearing. So this may be a very speedy round, but I will go ahead and start. And General Fenton, so you mentioned the personnel reductions in force, and since the announcement of soft personnel cuts under the previous administration, I have been very firmly and vocally opposed to that. The return on investment our nation gets from our special operations forces is not only measurable, it is absolutely unmatched. Despite those reductions, SOF continues to do what it does best. It's adapting, innovating, and overcoming. So, General Fenton, can you speak to how SOF is adapting its training pipelines to enable future operators to integrate high-tech capabilities like AI, cyber, and electronic warfare more effectively?
Senator, I can. I would start by saying I think you know your SOF very well in terms of that we innovate, and I like to think we innovate for today and we modernize for tomorrow. And as we think about tomorrow, that's certainly through the lens of the lessons learned that we're watching vis-a-vis the events in Ukraine. And I think it's more important to not just observe those lessons, but as you laid out, institutionalize them. I think in the instance of institutionalization of those lessons, I would offer U.S. Army Special Operations, RSOF, has undergone two what I think are pretty significant efforts against these changing character of war. First is they've created a brand new course, the Remote Uncrewed Systems Integration course down at Fort Bragg, a course that is about a 6-week program of instruction, bringing together everything from learning how to build the drone, fly drones, and then certainly adapt them as we have seen on the battlefield. The second thing they've done, I would characterize in terms of institutionalizing, is they've created a brand new military occupational specialty, or MOS, or job title. And that job title is Remote Systems Integrator. And they've created that around the backdrop of a Special Forces warrant officer, a Green Beret warrant officer, and after their training is complete, a multi-month program of instruction, they'll go back to the Special Forces groups and start to really take that as a master trainer and weave it into all group training. You would see that across many of our components, but I think, Senator, those are a couple of the examples I'd want to give you.
No, that's great. And I think many of us recognize there's nothing more dangerous than a warrant officer. So appreciate that new MOS. So let's talk a little bit more about those cuts. A critical strength of SOF is their ability to lead on emerging technologies and developing those capabilities that kind of ripple across the broader force. And it speaks directly to the indispensable role that they play in today's complex threat environment. So any additional reductions that we might see in SOF wouldn't just impact our SOF, they would degrade our ability to project power around the globe. So, General Fenton, from an operational perspective, how would further force reductions impact SOF's ability to respond to emerging threats in regions like Indo-PACOM, Europe, and, of course, the Middle East?
Well, Senator, I would offer right out the gate that would absolutely hurt. It would hurt fairly significantly, especially against the backdrop of, I think, over the last three and a half years, we've seen a 5,000 person teammate reduction inside of SOCOM already. And that's against the backdrop of communications, logistics, intelligence, civil affairs and PSYOP, and of course, operators. I think all of those are the type of capabilities that you see combatant commanders, as I mentioned in my opening statement, asking for more and more to the tune of about 35%. And I think that would absolutely impact that. We're already forced to make tough choices. Those would, and trade-offs. Those would certainly make, those would amplify those tough choices and trade-off and really put us in a place where I mentioned earlier in the statement we're already at a zero-sum game.
Thank you. And just in the time that I have remaining, can you please characterize the situation that unfolds when we have SOF teams that are out on the ground as force multipliers? And one example that I'm thinking about, this is many years ago in Africa, when we had ODAs there, we were able to bring together many different nations. Those nations had teams on the ground as well, but they could not get along with the populations that exist in some of those regions. It took Americans and the leadership that these teams brought into Africa to bring all of these nationalities together into a collaborative force. Can you speak to how SOF really can provide that leadership in small teams, small numbers, without a huge footprint, and be able to bring different nations together?
I can't, Senator. Small teams, small footprints, big impact is the way I like to think about it. And I think that starts with the fact that in our DNA is partnering. And SOF is known as a premier partner force. That's what we do across the globe, and maybe even today to the tune of about 7,000 folks in about 80 different countries. It's all about beginning partnerships. And those partnerships then evolve into trust. And once you get trust, then we're able to do everything, build partner capacity, develop some level of competency and capability. And I think it just goes on from there, and even do exactly as you just described. Bring folks together who otherwise may not be together. And I think at the end of the day, amplify capability and capacity for any combatant commander or for the Secretary of Defense.
Thank you, General Fenton. Ranking Member Slotkin.